français, mais la suite se fera exclusivement en anglais. Très rapidement, parce que j'ai eu le plaisir de commencer à lire cette œuvre avant qu'elle ne soit mise en page et publiée, le tout entièrement par les soins d'Alvar. Et la première fois que j'ai reçu un petit message me disant « Madame, excusez-moi, est-ce que ce serait possible, si vous avez un peu de temps, de relire mon livre ?» Donc je lui dis « Your book ?» Alors attends, je réfléchis. Est-ce que je lui avais demandé d'écrire un livre? Non, pas dans mon souvenir. Et donc je m'attendais, je vous avoue, à ce qu'il m'envoie une tâche écrite. Et je me suis dit, bon, de toute façon, moi, tant que c'est à corriger, tout me va bien. Et en voyant le format numérique du livre, qui était déjà complètement abouti, il n'y manquait plus que les illustrations, je pense qu'il était dans son organisation originale. Là, tu pourras expliquer le processus qui a mené à ça. Je me suis rendu compte que, d'un, il parlait vraiment d'un livre, et que de deux, je ne m'y attendais pas, mais l'œuvre dont il parlait était à la fois, vous le verrez, hein, dans le sujet comme dans la façon de l'aborder, extrêmement touchante. Au point que j'ai malheureusement dû m'y prendre à plusieurs reprises avant de finir l'œuvre. Il ne m'avait pas prévenu exactement du sujet, hein, je le précise. Et je ne m'attendais pas non plus à ce qu'il publie si vite ce livre. Donc quand je l'ai eu entre les mains, je peux vous dire que, même si, paraît-il, philosophiquement, nous n'avons pas le droit d'être fiers d'un travail que nous n'avons pas produit, j'ai été très fière de ce que tu as fait. Et je lui avais déjà dit auparavant, lors d'un autre concours remporté brillamment oral cette fois-ci. Mais alors là, en passant par l'écrit, c'était d'autant plus touchant. Donc voilà, merci beaucoup à toi. Et je t'écoute avec beaucoup d'attention.
Merci beaucoup.
I hope I'm not repeating what you said. No, I don't. I'm so impressed with Alvar and what he's done with this book. One of the highest compliments I can pay to a student is that they're a generous scholar, and Alvar really reflects this. He is someone, and you all know this, in school, shares his knowledge and helps others, and that's, I think, the highest thing that I can say about another person. And even his book really reflects this same sentiment, that he takes his experience and he shares it with others and attempts to help others and will help others through this work, which is amazing. And I shouldn't say even the fact, he translated it, it's in 3 different languages, so it's so accessible to people really around the world. So congratulations to you. I think this is probably the first of many times that people will be gathered and congratulating you. And thank you for all that you give to us.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Alvar Mora Pereyra, as you know. I would like first to thank the school for this opportunity. I would like to thank Ms. Narboni for lending me her space in her book fair to talk about and present my book that I wrote. I would like to add that the first edition is not for selling, even though it's in a book store. But it's for institutions like ONGs, NGOs, and public libraries to be given so they can help other students and help other people who are going through similar situations. And for a different edition, I will try to make a mass production and see if I can help other people with it. And I would also like, of course, to thank all of my amazing teachers, not only for taking the time to come and taking the time of their class to be present and bringing you all here, but also for all of their support and all of their amazing things that they have done to help me personally and help me go through my own experience. So first of all, I would like to share with you how this book came about, how I decided to write it. So from a very profound and very delicate family situation, I decided to break silence. I decided that I wanted to not only give a voice to myself, but I wanted to give voices to the thousands and millions of students and teenagers who go through different types of abuses, whether it be domestic abuse, whether it be sexual, emotional, and physical abuse. And when I started to talk, I decided to break silence. And I decided to talk with people, to my closest friends, to people who I knew. And I was incredibly surprised, not only that I wasn't alone, not only to know that even though I went through a certain situation, so did they. And what really shocked me the most is that I live in a bubble. I live with diplomats. I live with a very high-ranked people. And to be surprised that a lot of my friends, a lot of the people that I was with, went through a similar situation, or even worse, was completely shocking. So my book consists of 42 stories. Some are mine, some of other teenagers. I balance between girls, the stories that girls went through, and boys. As to, I was incredibly shocked that some girls lived through different type of abuses, only because of the fact that they were girls. So in each story, I tell their story. I tell why they went through, and how they managed to overcome that situation of violence, and how they managed to go through their own paths of resilience and happiness. So the first thing that I want to ask you guys is, what comes to mind when you think of violence? Does anyone here want to share what do they think? What is violence to them?
In the 9th grade, I had to think about it a lot lately because we had a debate about violence, so I think they were all willing to answer.
For example, normally when you think of violence, you think of physical abuse. Is that right? Show of hands.
No, not for me.
Then, sure. What other types of violence do you think that there is?
I don't know, like violence moral, like I don't know how to say. Like example, when you say bad thing about someone, you are like, sorry for my English, but when you say something to someone very disrespectful or something like that, is the kind of violence.
Exactly. So there's not only the obvious type of abuse, there's not only the type of you hit someone and you see the mark. There's also emotional and psychological abuse. And that's what happens a lot in domestic violence, in violence that there's between a girlfriend and a boyfriend. And violence does not discriminate. It can happen from 0, from when you're born, to if you're 90. So that's something to really keep in mind. So the book talks about these things. However, it does not only talk about the horrible things, but how they manage to overcome. It gives a message of hope, that even though you go through a specific situation, you can overcome those things. You can do things to actually overcome and find your own ways of resilience. So not only did I put the 42 stories, and of course I changed the names and some circumstances and some genders to keep their name anonymous, as to not reveal their identity. And at the end of the book, I think as you can see, I put indexes. I put phone numbers of countries, especially in Spanish-speaking Caribbean countries, plus France, Canada, USA, and UK, where there are phone numbers and sites and information where you can actually go to see and help and seek support. So I would like to read with you, I would like to show you some stories. So as you can see, the first, it's an image. It's an image that kind of gives you an insight of what it will be. Then there's the English version. You can see the English, the Spanish, and then the French. Okay. So the first one is story number 4, which is Sarah's story. Why me? Dad doesn't want to enroll us again for school, but he's forcing us to see him. He threatens not to give us money even for food if we don't see him. He's sending texts, emails, calling us. When we answer and ask him to stop this craziness, he says it's all because he loves us and we can't understand because we're too young and blind to see the truth. I go to school. My friend and I start talking. She doesn't want to lend me her pen. I can see it's not important, but before I know it, I feel all my anger, all the anguish from these past months coming out of me. I go to the bathroom and I start bawling, my tears falling from my eyes. I'm on the floor. I don't want this anymore. The question in my head devoured me killing me is, why me? When you're a victim of domestic violence, everyday situations that normally are just annoying or have little importance may trigger reactions where your emotions get out of control. This is normal, but be careful with your actions. Why me? This is a perfectly reasonable question, but it's not going to help you resolve your feelings. Remember that it's not the whole world that is making you a victim, but just one person. For you to feel a victim under these circumstances may be perfectly normal. It does not make you selfish if you feel this way. You don't understand why this is happening to you, and you may never have an answer. But this experience can make you stronger. Sometimes a good way to empower yourself, manage your feelings, and gain perspective on your situation is to help others. Sarah, for instance, started going to read to kids at hospitals. Her volunteer work helped her put her situation in perspective and focus on other issues other than the domestic violence from which she was suffering. More important than that, realizing that she was capable of doing work for her community empowered her to put boundaries on the situation at home. One of the positive outcomes at the hospital was that she met volunteers who helped her mother with legal issues. So, as we can see, she was suffering from economical abuse at home. She was going through a very difficult time. And what a lot of people do, what a lot of teenagers, what I did, was to bottle up the feelings, to not talk about it, to put a smile on your face and say that everything's okay. But it's not. You don't necessarily need to be okay to actually do something. What normally I think is, feel down for a week, feel bad for a month, but then get up and do something. She didn't just stay there. She didn't just cry on the floor and never got up. On the contrary, she helped others. She went to volunteer work at a hospital. She interacted with people, with kids who were going through a hard time themselves. So not only that, but it puts perspective into them. So, for example, what other solutions would you have done if you were in a similar situation? Does anyone have, talk with someone? Raise their hands. Who would have talked with someone to see if there was any solution? Would you have talked with someone if you were going through a similar situation like this? It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of guts to actually come out of a situation like this. Now I would like to share with you another story. Yes?
Question. Did you write this first in English and translate it, or is that depends?
English and in translation.
Oh.
Okay, so the other story that I'd like to share with you is Selena's story. It's the seventh story. Am I worth anything? Sunday noon. I lie in bed. My mom has called me several times. I tried to get up, but I don't have the energy. Breakfast has been served hours ago, and I couldn't make it to the kitchen, so I pretended to be asleep. The whole family will go to church in a few hours. I have to get ready, get up, take a shower, choose a dress, etc. I say to myself, 5 more minutes in bed and I'll be in the bathroom. 1 o'clock. My mother opens the door to my bedroom and yells at me. We leave in an hour and I have to get ready for Mass. There are chores to do. Check my uniform for tomorrow, etc., etc. All my body aches. I drag myself to the bathroom. This agonizing pain has been going on for weeks now, since I had the date with Jim. Everything was going to be perfect. My dress, the mid-April evening, everything. Instead, the date meant rape, shame, broken body, and broken soul. Now, I'm nothing. I'm all alone in this. No one loves me. No one cares. I'm done with this bullshit. I'm tired. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. I thought of reporting Jim up to the police, but I'm terrified of the consequences, at home and at school. I don't want to talk to anyone. I thought I was strong. I thought I could survive this. But I realized I can't. I'm not strong enough. I'm not worth it. This shame, this feeling like I were nothing. And I feel like shit. I just want to lie in bed and do nothing. I'm giving up. Selena started talking with her father about the date rape, and her parents took her rapist to court. Meanwhile, Selena started working on herself with a counselor to overcome the trauma of rape. She also went to self-help group to regain her strength and confidence. If you have suffered any kind of sexual violence, bad feelings and negative thoughts are natural. Maybe you can't sleep properly, have eating disorders. Ask for help. If the dark feelings last, you must absolutely look for help. You might be suffering from depression, and professional help is needed. Once you get those emotions out of you, you can get up. Little by little, get up. Regain your strength and keep going. You can do it. Never give up and always keep fighting. So as you can see, the themes are really rough, but there's hope behind it. There is realizing that not only did her case is not 1 in a million. A statistic says that 3 out of 10 girls at the age of 16 would have suffered some kind of sexual abuse. Look around. Statistically, 3 out of 10 girls at the age of 16 have suffered sexual abuse. It's not 1 in a million. It's 3 out of 10. And that's what this book is about. It's about showing these things. It's about saying, we're not going to stay quiet. We're not going to just swallow in depression and eventually die. No. It's the message of hope. It's a message that even though you went through a situation this hard, even though you're going through so much pain, so much trauma, so much emotional turmoil, you can still get out. You can still do things. And these 42 stories, they managed to get out of this. And it's not easy. It's not easy, and it will be a lot of times where you will feel useless, where you will feel like giving up. But they kept going. They found so many things to do. They found so many places to go, so many people to comfort them. Teachers, counselors, friends, best friends. Even religion, for some people, helped them. Each person has their own path of resilience and their own path towards happiness. Everything that we want to do in our lives, it might be gain money, it might be have a relationship, it might be have a good work. But the real goal that each person really wants is to be happy. Whether that be accumulating things externally or working on yourself to actually become something. And of course I put 1,000 voices, but this not only represents 1,000. It represents millions of teenagers, of adults, of kids who have been victims of abuse, have been victims of so many things, but they still managed to come out. And I know this is a taboo about talking about violence, saying that kids should have a voice, to see that they also suffer. But there are so many things that you can do. There is so much happiness. There's so many people, so many things that a lot of people can bring to you. For example, for me it was my teachers, the absolute love of my mother, my friends. I reached for help. I asked for help. I didn't just stay depressed. And I didn't just fake a smile. I wasn't interested. People who have been here the past few years notice that at one point I wasn't smiling. At one point I was just going to school, coming back home, and then going back to school again. But I worked on myself. And that's what they did. They worked on themselves. They asked for help. And there are so many cases that they don't. And that's what you need to do. The first step is to break the silence. The first thing to do is talk. Because when you don't talk, it's as if there weren't any consequences. My best quote, the quote that I absolutely love by Carl Jung says, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And of course, even from a philosophical point, it's debatable. But there are so much things that you can do to forge your destiny, to work on your happiness. And I think that's what this book gives. It's a message of hope. It's a message that even though you go through sexual abuse, through emotional abuse, through economical, domestic violence, physical, there is still a way out. There's still, you don't have to end up like this. And even though, surprisingly enough, even though I talk about really hard things in this book, there are much worse things in life, sadly. But there are also so many wonderful things in life too. It's not just violence, it's not just people who attack you and victimize you. But there's also so many people who are there to protect you, who are there to help you get out of a situation that is incredibly hard. And you're not alone. And what I want to tell each and one of you, and specifically if there's anyone here that is going through a hard time, is that you are not alone. You're not the only one. That you can seek for help. That you can talk with someone. That you can get out of a situation like this. And that there's always hope for any type of resilience. And there's always a road to happiness. There's always a road to resilience. And there's always so many people who are there to help you and care for you and love you. And that you're not alone. Always break the silence. Thank you. So, if anyone wants to ask me any questions about the book, about anything, yes. But each and every story is true. And of course, some circumstances, some genders, and of course every name is changed in order to preserve their confidentiality between them, me, and as well as the reader.
Where are they from?
I'm sorry?
The person who wrote the stories that you wrote, where are they from?
Oh, what do you mean where they're from? The country?
Yeah.
Oh, well, most of them I met here. Some of them are other type of friends that in Panama or Mexico that they shared with me. But most of them I met here in New York. Yeah. Any other type of question? Yes.
How long did it take?
To write?
Yeah.
6 to 7 months. Yes.
Sleeping 3 hours a day.
Any other questions? Yes. Again, the first edition is, I made 200 copies that I will send to NGOs and public libraries, but hopefully with more time I'll be able to make a bigger production of the book and to be spread out in the world, and hopefully we'll reach much more.
Alvar heard that that's your second book.
Yes. Yes, actually it is. This is technically my second book that I wrote. The first one, I didn't have the guts to publish it as it was embarrassing. It was called Kingdom of Hearts. And there were a lot of, it was like Kingdom of Hearts. It was a fiction about vampires. I was young and yes. But technically, yes, this is the second book I wrote, but this one I really wanted to publish as to give not only justice to myself, but justice to so many other kids out there. Yes. What do you mean?
Je peux parler en français ou pas?
Comme tu veux.
Ok. Genre, est-ce que pendant les histoires que tu as mis, il y a genre des conseils après ça en fait?
Oui, exactly. So, I'll answer in English. In each story, there's the story of the person, but also there's a little moral, basically, a kind of a message of hope and how they managed, not only they managed to get out of that situation, but also some tips of how you personally can incorporate into your life, not only from violence, any type of situation, any hardship that you're facing. These advices are really helpful to those type of things. Yes.
Your book is more psychological, right?
Yes and no. It can be studied in a psychological way, as it is testimonies of teenagers who went through different types of abuses and how they managed to overcome it. But it can also be, this is like outside of the box, but a linguistic type of study, as it is in 3 languages. The translations are hopefully very accurate. And you can study it. Also, very important, this book, as Madame Kolb said, is not supposed to be read at once. Because it's an emotional roller coaster. But so there's, as I said, there are 42 stories, like 21 guys and 21 girls, and so it's not a continuous story, but it's segmented. It's the story of Sarah, the story of Brian, etc. and etc. Yes.
When you mention those statistics, it's clear that most people don't break the silence.
Yes.
So what I think is so valuable about your book, too, is to see that there have been people in these horrible situations, and all the things that they might imagine, all the bad things that could come from talking about it, it's actually the opposite. And so it really gives you hope that...
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because so many victims of different types of abuses don't talk because they have fear, they're scared, there's shame, there's also self-doubt. I could have done this to prevent it, what did I do wrong? If I talk, they're not going to believe me, if I do this. And that guilt and that shame and that problem is absorbed, when it, on the contrary, it should be in the other way around.
The page.
The page. Yes. Also, I created a Facebook page called 1,000 Voices, where it already reached 10,000 likes. So it's really exciting. It gives a different type of posts, not only like to help students and people going through this similar situations, but also like little funny and hopeful, and this kind of posts that really give you joy, not just like a heavy information that is really hard to digest. But it's really, of course, there are information that is really rough and really important, but it also tries to make it as light as possible, as to make it interesting and to make it a teenager community. And also what I really found interesting is that in my page, 66% of the public are girls. Especially girls. They seek for help. They try to find ways, and for a guy to suffer from any type of violence and talk, it's a way of weakness. People think that when you cry, when you show that you're in need of help, it's as if you were weak. And it's on the exact contrary. It takes a lot of bravery and a lot of courage to actually seek for help and to go talk with people, to go with a therapist or even just a friend or a teacher or even your parents to talk about these situations. And it is not shameful to have been a victim of any type of abuse. And the best and what's most important to realize is that it is not your fault, whether you did not provoke any of it. Even if you think so, even if the abuser says that it is you who caused it, it is not you. It is the abuser himself that is the cause, and him or her that is responsible. Yes.
Je suis intéressée par ton livre, mais en fait, il y a un truc que j'aimerais savoir, c'est du genre, d'accord, tu veux briser un peu ce tabou, tout ce qui ensuit ce silence, mais après, je sais pas comment dire, mais de nos jours, quand une personne a des problèmes de ce genre et va se confier à une personne, on ne le croit pas forcément, ou peut-être limite, je sais pas comment dire, c'est pas une honte, mais de peur que la personne aille répéter à certaines personnes qui restent dans le silence, tu vois. Est-ce qu'avec ton livre, tu donnes un peu des conseils à propos de ça aussi?
Oui, oui. Non seulement je donne des conseils dans les histoires elles-mêmes, mais aussi comme j'ai dit, j'ai mis un index avec tous les numéros de téléphone, des sites, avec des gens qui sont spécialisés and who are specialized. Sorry, change it to French. Who are specialized to actually help you. There are phone numbers that there are people who are there to listen to you and to kind of give you an open door to talk about the situation and the feelings that you are going through. So it's yes.
I just want to commend you because as a Hispanic myself, you're giving this great resource to so many people of all ages and in different languages. It's incredible what you've done. Because for a Hispanic community, we're very silent about these topics.
Yes.
Yes.
So you powerful resource and a force. And I'm
Thank you.
grateful for what you're doing.
Very much.
It's wonderful.
I think it's very interesting, as you say, the Hispanic community is sometimes very, very secretive, and of these, and especially in high ranks.
Good word.
Exactly. The more you go up the scale, the harder it is to talk about. The more people will try to judge you, and the harder it will be for people to believe you. I saw some hands over there. Yes.
I want to know if you were planning to sell more copies and put them on sale afterwards.
Okay.
What will you do with the money? Will you give it to an organization which will help or psychologists?
Very interesting question. So as I said, the first copies I am not selling. I am giving to NGOs and public libraries to kind of for them to have them and to be able to help other kids with this. However, with the production that hopefully in the future I will be able to accomplish, I never actually thought about getting any money from it, so I would surely give like a lot of the portion that I gain to organizations such as violence against women, violence against children, against teenagers, and etc. and etc. So, yes. As I said, in my own personal experience from a very hard situation at home, I decided to, again, break silence. And kind of, that really pushed me to write this book as to give not only myself a voice and a sense of justice, but also to give other teenagers and other kids their own voice to kind of talk about this situation and break that taboo aspect of it.
How do we find your Facebook page?
Yes, yeah. I have everyone's contact, so like probably if you want to.
Facebook.
Yes, Facebook. It's 10,000 voices. You will see like the cover, and yeah, yes.
Who motivate you most to publish?
My beautiful mother and my amazing teachers who, when each time we talk about them, I always like have so much love towards my teachers and absolutely my mom. They really pushed me not only to publish it, but also to give myself a sense of worth. For a long time, I was incredibly self-conscious about everything I did, and little by little, I regained my own confidence and my own strength through a lot of work. And as you can see from these stories, also these people with a lot of work themselves and with a lot of support, they managed to do things. Yes. Any other question?
Thank your mother.
So thank you very much for coming. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.